All right, we're going to start out with Kier Starmer.
News from the UK.
Who must go? Hassan must go. Who must go? Kier Starmer must go. All right, I got to pee real quick.
Kier Starmer, after just 2 years in office, he made the announcement this morning at his official residence. Chris Livesay is outside Parliament in London. Chris, good morning.
Good morning, Vlad. Well, that pressure had been mounting on Kier Starmer for weeks. As recently as Friday, he remained defiant and said he wasn't going anywhere. But this morning, things changed. Just a couple of hours ago, that defiance was gone. Britain is due for its 7th prime minister in only 10 years.
Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
When Kier Starmer led the Labour Party to a landslide victory in 2024, many Britons thought the country's revolving door of prime ministers had finally stopped spinning. Instead, there it twirls again. Britain's economy has remained sluggish. Many voters are still struggling with high prices, high taxes, and overstretched public services. Labour's poor showing in recent local elections only deepened concerns, while the anti-establishment Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage, has surged in the polls.
My mother would be proud.
Starmer has also been damaged by the controversy surrounding the former UK ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, and renewed scrutiny of his ties to Jeffrey Epstein. And he's faced repeated mockery from President Trump.
And, unfortunately, Kier is not Winston Churchill.
Over the weekend, MPs from Starmer's own party continued to publicly call for him to resign and make way for a newly re-elected MP, the former mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham.
And that's the kind of change we need to, a change in our politics to make it work again for people.
Now, unlike an American president, a British prime minister can effectively be fired by members of his own party. That's regardless of election timetables, leaving voters without their say. Kier Starmer's departure marks a historic period of instability for one of America's closest allies. Matt?
Chris Livesay in London. Thank you, Chris.
And here is the Prime Minister, Sir Kier Starmer.
Wanker. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. 7 in 10. 7 in 10. A state of disarray. Kier Starmer is out, and he's at number 10 Downing Street, coming out of that room, perhaps for the last time, to deliver his resignation speech. Now, what does this mean for the future of the Labour Party? Why did this happen? Why did you lie about the UK grape report? Was it cause they banned you, dog zapper? The grape report. I think these are some of the most malleable people of all time. Brother, you are, I want to say you're sheep, but you're not even sheep. You know what I mean? You're like a fucking amoeba. It's so easy to manipulate you. It's unbelievably easy to manipulate you. And it's always people who think that they're actually free thinkers. They're not sheep. It's incredible. They just dangle a little bit of red meat in front of your eyes, maybe jingle some keys. And that's it. That's your primary focus. They literally turn around and Rupert Lowe, one of the dumbest motherfuckers in British politics, can come out and be like, yeah, we compiled a rape report. Yeah, it turns out all the rapes in the UK is so Muslim, man. And you're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. I was already fearful of Islam. It turns out everyone that was ever doing a rape in the United Kingdom was actually Muslim. Look at that. I will not be questioning the veracity of these claims being made because I'm a fucking idiot. Yeah, that's why 87% of sexual assault cases are white. Guys, those are fake and those should be allowed, yeah? It's only the Muslimic style sexual assault violations that we should be prosecuting because I don't care about actual fucking sexual assault. I just care about making sure that we have sufficient cause for deporting the fucking Muslims, yeah? It turns out you can get away with whatever you want. You can make claims about whatever you want as long as you're making them about Muslim people, and these guys will fucking eat it up. Yes, dude. Muslims are also stealing all of your funds. They're actually being put in luxury five-star hotels, fine dining accommodations, all halal, of course. And that's the reason why your trains aren't running on time. That's the reason why you haven't had a decent job in decades. It's because the Muslims came in, and Kier Starmer, who is obviously secretly Muslim, has continued that process, just like the past 14 years of Tory leadership that actively wanted to take money away from you and give it to the Muslims directly. It's true. This is actually happening, and I support it. I love it, and I support it, and we should do more of it, honestly. Yeah. Islam, also a reason why you don't have a girlfriend. Think about that. 1 in 5 people arrested over 2024 riots have since been reported for domestic abuse. Wow. Yeah, but that kind of domestic abuse is all right? When fucking England isn't winning, for example, that's the type of domestic violence that is as British as jelly fucking ew. You know? Yeah. A bunch of fucking plunkers. As British as Bangor and Mash. As British as a Prime Minister resigning in disgrace after a short tenure. Speaking of short tenures of deeply unpopular British Prime Ministers, Kier Starmer expected to announce his resignation at number 10 Downing Street. No one said that white don't do it, but why do you deny that they do it as well? Did I say that? Did I ever say that like Muslims are incapable of doing sexual assaults? I didn't say that at all. I simply said that report makes it seem, or heavily implies through fake numbers for the most part, that the overwhelming majority of rapes, if not the entirety of rapes, because it's 87% of the inquiry's focus is Islamic style rape. Right? It's fucking ridiculous. The overwhelming majority of sexual assault crimes that are committed on British soil are committed by white people. And you're over here trying to make it seem like it's a Muslimic style rape that's taking place. That's the entire purpose of the inquiry. That's what I'm opposing. I'm not opposing the notion that a specific group of individuals, given their race or their religion, are incapable of committing rape. I've never said that. And even the per capita argument doesn't make sense either, because of the if you want to make the correct per capita assessment, you have to make it off of the same age and same demographics. Okay? A lot of the Muslim refugees that come into the country are usually very young. They are far more likely to be in the age bracket that is overrepresented in violent crimes. If you look at the white demographic and adjust it to the same age bracket that the majority of Muslim refugees are, you will realize that the white predisposition towards violence and crime, violent crimes in particular, is still higher per capita than the Muslim refugee proclivity towards crime and violent crime is. This is how you do appropriate statistical analysis. Not that I care about it, because I don't think that we should be. Looking at entire races, or we should be deciding that like entire races of people are actually readily available to do crimes. That's not how I do politics. That's not how anyone should do politics. That's how you arrive at eugenics. But even if you were to do the appropriate statistical analysis, you'd arrive at the same conclusion that the actual numbers guys have arrived at, which is that if you adjust, and this is before you even adjust to obviously finances, because that's how you're supposed to actually conduct. If you want to do like real race realism, if you want to do real race science, and this is precisely the reason why race science is debunked, you have to actually not look at like all black people or all Muslim people versus all white people. That's not how you would conduct a real study on the matter. You would have to look at and adjust for financial predicament, like financial circumstances, socioeconomic conditions. You would have to look at age. You would have to look at gender. And when you actually adjust for those exact same factors, you will find that when you control those variables, you will find that the Muslim population is not in any way, shape, or form more likely to do crimes than the white British population. Now, what's actually interesting about it is that the white British population has a higher likelihood of committing crime than the Muslim population. Do you know why that's the case, if adjusted for all of those other variables? That's because the British population, and this is the same exact thing that comes out in the data in America as well, the Muslim refugee population unconditionally across the board, regardless of their financial circumstances, are obviously a little bit more careful about violating the rules because they don't want to get fucking deported. That's it. That's the same exact reason why, if you look at the data in the United States of America, the undocumented and documented migrant population is responsible for less crimes per capita than the natural-born U.S. population actually is. It's not even close, as a matter of fact. It turns out it's because people are a lot more careful and a lot less interested in doing crimes, regardless of their financial circumstances, when they know that the punishment for said crime, no matter how small, is deportation. I love that the starving Marxist, by the way, has come in here. Per capita and turning a blind eye to the woke was the tipping point for reform and restore to get the momentum to change Britain. Yes, lying about Muslim people raping white women. You never read the report. They violate the rules and they don't get deported, homie. Starving Marxist. You're going to keep starving with that fucking idiotic mentality. Okay? That we're running around being like, yeah, this is actually a fucking resounding victory for America.
Thank you. Thank you. Walking up this street 2 years ago was the proudest moment of my life. A new Labour government, the first in 14 years. A page in our country's history turned after years of disappointment and despair. The chance to change the lives of millions of people for the better. That's what I came into politics for. The journey to that point.
All polls show that a small minority believe the war objectives were successful, that the war was worth it, and the USA won, and that the MOU was more advantageous for the USA. Yeah, it's 21% of Americans. What is the likelihood that 21% of Americans found their way into my fucking chat? It's incredible. I don't think these guys sincerely believe the shit that they're saying. I think they're just trying to repeat a point that is lost.
It was not easy. 6 years ago, I inherited a Labour Party that was politically, financially, and morally bankrupt. I was told time and time again that my party was finished, that we were consigned to history, that a majority
and it was
at
true.
The general election, let alone a...
By the way, saying that he inherited a morally bankrupt Labour Party is gross and disgusting. He is the one who's responsible for the moral bankruptcy of Labour. Okay? Trying to make it seem like this was in the hands of Jeremy Corbyn is nasty business. Okay? It's totally ahistorical. It's totally nasty business. You are the one who killed the Labour Party. Okay? And you were actively trying to kill the Labour Party while Corbyn was the leader of the Labour Party. And as a gift for your initiatives, you actually got the leadership role within the Labour Party.
Landslide majority.
Much like Israel, Kier Starmer here got everything he wanted. But the problem is his success meant the demise of Labour. That was the cost. And it got to such a terrible situation that he has to now resign in disgrace.
Was impossible. But we proved those people wrong because we changed our party, ripping out the poison of anti-Semitism, restoring trust on the economy, defense, and national...
Yes, I think his resignation is not good for the Greens because Andy Burnham can present himself. If he plays his cards right, he could present himself as a more progressive figure, even though he actually isn't. And if he does that, then he can restore some of the confidence back in Labour and only chip away at the growth that the Greens have actually acquired.
Security, and becoming a party that once again stood proudly with, not against, our national flag. the hard work of change was with a singular purpose. Not power for power's sake, but to change Britain for the better. To build a fairer country with dignity and respect, where everyone is seen, everyone is valued, wealth and opportunity for all, not just the privileged few. And look at what we've achieved in just 2 years. An economy that is stronger, growing.
Dude, this is such a funny resignation speech because like the entire purpose behind why you're delivering this speech is because you suck. Is because the Labor Party sucks and you suck and you are responsible for the Labor Party sucking. So anything you say here is just going to be bullshit. Oh, things are so great, which is why I'm finally tendering my resignation. Really? Yeah. Migrant hatred stoked, Palestine protesters arrested, conceded ground to the far right, Palantir Face ID implemented, leftist purge from labor. Yep, it must be Starmer. Again, suffering from his success. If Kier Starmer's goal as a secret agent of reactionary forces was to eviscerate the formerly robust labor movement in the country, then yeah, he succeeded. He succeeded in spectacular display. He succeeded tremendously. If his goal was to restore power to labor, then he fucking failed. That's why he's resigning.
Faster than our peers. Wages rising faster than inflation in every single month since we came to power. Investment secured. Infrastructure being built. An end to austerity, with the fastest fall in NHS waiting lists for 17 years. The biggest improvement in rights for workers and renters in a generation. The biggest uplift in defence spending since the Cold War. Small boat crossings fall.
Wow, incredible. The biggest uplift in defense spending since the Cold War. What a fucking resounding success that is. Dude, it's literally, this is the problem. It's part of the problem. Your ambitions lie elsewhere. You had no interest in fixing any of the crises that the former Tory governments had created, specifically born out of austerity. Kier Starmer could have ended child poverty, homelessness, and the grotesque levels of inequality in this country. Instead, he abandoned those in need, destroyed our civil liberties, and facilitated genocide in Gaza. That is how this prime minister will be remembered. And that is the legacy and moral and political bankruptcy he leaves behind. The crises in our society are not going away, neither are we, and we will keep fighting for a more equal, peaceful, and dignified society for all. Honestly, there is a warning here for the Democrats as well. A warning that they will not heed, okay? This is the exact direction that the Democrats are headed down. This is exactly what the Democrats are doing as well. The single good accomplishment he listed that he didn't fabricate, lifting the 2-child benefit cap, was something he opposed and purged members over as soon as Labor won. Zara Sultana says, history will judge Kier Starmer as a man who lied his way to the top of the Labor Party and then used that power to evoke Enoch Powell with the Island of Strangers, keep children in poverty, attack disabled people, scapegoat refugees, strip back civil liberties, and hand our public services to Palantir. A man who gave the top diplomatic job to the best pal of a convicted pedophile, said Israel has a right to cut off water and electricity to Gaza, rolled out the red carpet for Israeli war criminals, and kept the weapons flowing to the Israeli military as it committed genocide. Good riddance. It's just, I don't know how people don't see it. Starmer's legacy is genocide. That's literally all I can think about. I pray that he's tortured by this fact for the rest of his life. Next stop, The Hague.
Is responsible.
Here, by the way, this is literally him saying, like, Israel has a right to cut off electricity to the children of Gaza, water to the children of Gaza.
I'm very clear. Israel must have that, does have that right to defend herself. And Hamas bears responsibility.
A siege is appropriate? Cutting off power, cutting off water?
Well, I think that Israel does have that right. It is an ongoing situation. Obviously, everything should be done within international law, but I don't want to step away from the sort of core principles that Israel has a right to defend herself and Hamas bears responsibility for these terrorist acts. And I would call on all responsible states, particularly Middle East responsible states, to call this out for what it is and to stand with the world in utterly condemning these actions by...
Human rights lawyer, by the way. Just a dog. Just a servile dog to Israel. Okay? And that's one of many issues that Kier Starmer had with his leadership of labor. It's a litmus test. It's perhaps the most immoral. It's the most obvious inconsistency with any kind of like humanitarian principles that you abide by, supposedly, as a leader of a Western liberal nation. But that's why I always say Israel is a phenomenal litmus test to help you develop a better understanding of where these guys' loyalty is. Saying herself a enemy, yeah, that's how you can identify someone being an ultra-Zionist too. Referring to Israel as her. I only hear that from, people, not even just like regular Israelis, but like Israelis who are really, really into Israel.
Asylum hotels closing, protecting young people from social media.
Asylum hotels closing. Oh my God. Even in his resignation speech, he's leaning into far-right nonsense.
And 500,000 children being lifted out of poverty because of the choices that I made. Our reputation in the world restored, with Britain once again standing up for decency, respect, and the rule of law. Securing trade deals, standing with Ukraine, standing up for our values, and rebuilding our relationship with our allies in Europe. Change promised.
God, I hate him so much. He's just such an animal, dude. He is such a piece of shit. Boiled excrement. Just nothing redeemable about this man. No fucking riz. No charisma whatsoever. And his worldview is so broken, so flawed. Is he actually mentally impaired? I think this level of zealotry demonstrated towards a defense of neoliberalism at a time when liberalism is in crisis once again is mental impairment. Like, he is such a loyal servant of capital that it does come across like he's mentally impaired. Like, it doesn't make sense. You're like, what are you talking about? Oh, really? Oh, really? You brought back international law? Dog, you had the Israeli fucking president. You rolled a welcome mat for the Israeli president. What the fuck do you mean? You actively flew to Cyprus, where the Royal Air Force base is, and you celebrated the British Royal Air Force's surveillance operations and targeting operations that were aiding and abetting the Israeli genocide of Palestinians, and now aiding and abetting Israel's war crimes in Lebanon. You fucking bitch. No one believes this shit. No one. Especially because the right-wing reactionary forces like the Tommy Robinsons of the world don't like you anyway. The Israeli agents on the far right that the Israeli government is funding, okay, and facilitating to disrupt normal British existence, to foment hatred towards Muslims, those guys will never fuck with you. So who is this for? You went on LBC and you said it's okay that Israel is starving an entire people. And that was early on. Yeah, he defended one of the Fairford Five as a lawyer. He was a human rights lawyer. He successfully defended the exact same kind of action that the Palestine action was committing against the Iraq war. When he was a lawyer, he successfully defended his client from prosecution for engaging in the exact same kind of direct action that, as the leader of labor, he turned into a prescribed terrorist action. It's insane. Okay, you said America deserved 9/11. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? Are you a defender of Kier Starmer? What's happening? What does this have to do with anything? How is you rehashing something that was addressed in 2019 that people still voluntarily misunderstand have to do with Kier Starmer's resignation after his dog shit tenure? Do you even like Kier Starmer?
By a Labour government. Change fought for by a Labour government. Change delivered by a Labour government. But I know the question being asked now is not who was best placed to change the Labour Party, to take us into power and to begin the vital work of improving lives for millions of people. Those questions...
Abe Lovely sends his regards. True. Abe Lovely, one of the biggest, one of the most vindicated men in Europe, in the entirety of the European continent,
have been answered. The question my party is asking now...
It's funny because, like, he's trying to say, look, I know I'm resigning in disgrace, but I did a lot of great things too, remember? And because he's done zero great things, virtually everything he brought up are part of the reason why he had to fucking resign. They're either completely antithetical and completely the opposite of what he did in his leadership role, you know, advancing human rights or whatever the fuck he was claiming, or they're capitulations to right-wing framing on issues that are incredibly reactionary, incredibly racist, with no real purpose. He did not win anybody over with these actions. Like, oh, the asylum seekers, we've destroyed their hotels. There's no more hotels for asylum seekers. Like, when he says stuff like that, you have to wonder, like, who is this for? Who is this for? Are you winning favors with the far right? Because they're the ones who are advancing this. They're the ones who are freaking out over it. They're the ones who have raised the salience of this supposed issue. When the real issue is the economic struggles that regular working class folk experience in the UK. Like, who is this for?
Is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question. And I accept that answer with good grace.
Yeah. Starmer was the model embodiment of a Tandon, Near-Tandon, Matt Iglesias, Jonathan Chait vision for liberal governance. Purge anyone left of you and treat them with disdain, while abandoning all campaign promises and moving rightward, which failed to appeal to the conservatives and only emboldened the fascists. This has been my warning in perpetuity at this point. I've been screaming about this rightward shift in center-left governance in Europe specifically, but also within the Democratic Party here in the United States for a fucking decade. And all we have gotten in that same time frame is moving further and further, the Overton window shifting further and further to the right, which has only galvanized and emboldened the far-right fascist forces. I've been saying this for a decade now, okay? This was also my direct warning when Kier Starmer won, if you recall. At the time, I was in Croatia. And I said, if Kier Starmer does not fix these issues, here it is. Hassan in 2024 correctly predicted the downfall of Kier Starmer and the rise of Reform UK. If Kier Starmer continues with austerity, privatization, and conservative policies with a red sticker, we're talking Reform UK, Reform takes over. You're staring down fascist mobilization in the UK like you've never seen before.
I really, really, really hope I'm wrong. But I'm telling you right now, it feels like we're at the precipice. If Kier Starmer continues with austerity, if Kier Starmer continues with privatization, if Kier Starmer continues with conservative policies with a fucking red sticker on it, okay? I'm telling you, if he does that, we're talking Reform UK, whatever the fuck it is. Maybe Reform takes over the Conservative Party entirely. Maybe it's just simply Reform. You're staring at the barrel of a goddamn gun, okay? You are staring down fascist mobilization in the UK like you've never seen. I really, really...
Yeah, and lo and behold, that is precisely what happened, okay? That was a warning in July 2024, but that warning was not first addressed in July 2024. Throughout my career as a political commentator, I have issued this warning about the rise of fascism in Europe over and over again. That's why you can go back to 2020 and you'll hear similar things that I've said. You can go further beyond 2020 and hear the exact same shit. Okay? What is this? It appears a foregone conclusion that the British Labour Party is about to take the path blazed by Obama, squandering a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Yes. Anyone with political analysis worth its salt is going to see this. That's why I always say it's not unique to just myself or Michael from Pennsylvania. All you have to do is be honest, okay? All you have to do is be honest. Another famous moment was when Hillary Rodham Clinton looked at the European center-left, supposed center-left parties, and told them, urged them to capitulate to right-wing framing on immigration. Hillary Clinton said that was the right move. If you recall, this was like back in 2020, I believe. It was even earlier than that. Maybe even like in the 2016 cycle too. And I kept repeatedly saying over and over again that this is a horrible mistake. All you will do is galvanize the right. You won't win any votes, and you'll just legitimize the grievance. A grievance born out of complete hysteria. This is why I started watching you. I've been saying this exact same shit about Starmer, but my immediate environment never agreed, and I'm not a streamer, so no one gives a shit, lol, yet here we are. Well, I am a streamer, and no one still seems to give a shit. But yes, this is the third way method. This is the neoliberal method, okay? And I don't know anymore. Maybe these guys are genuinely in the pocket of the far right. Like, I always assume that it's part stupidity, part negligence, and it's not a deliberate attempt to generate a fascist right-wing mobilization in the country. But it's getting to a point where it's impossible not to notice that all of the center-left parties would rather engage in appeasement to the fascist forces and offer legitimacy to their hysterical race baiting than actually solve these economic problems that people are experiencing that cause this volatility, that cause this anger and resentment amongst the masses, that make them more malleable, make them easily duped by these far-right forces that will turn the blame over to migrants. It's hard for me to look at this failure and then look at the Democratic Party here in the United States of America lean into the exact same failures, regardless of the lessons that they could be learning here from the labor defeat, and assume that they're not doing this on purpose. You understand? Sometimes it comes across like they are doing this on purpose, that they're engaging in this unbelievably cynical trade, that they'll capitulate to right-wing framing on racialized hysteria with the hopes that when the fascist forces come into power, they'll spare these liberals. History shows us that they will not be spared either. The only thing Kier Starmer has to his name is a more surveilled British internet, a prescription of anti-genocide protesters, pensioners being arrested for showing support to anti-genocide protesters, and a pandering to fascist forces on the issue of immigration. No solutions to the economic struggles that people face, and just a steady pivot to the right. It's disgusting. Well, and then banning me as well. That was cool. That was very cool that he did that. Yeah, he was a servile little piggy to Donald Trump. He was a servile dog to Zionist interests on the foreign policy front. Nothing to write off. No accomplishments whatsoever. Just a servant of the Epstein class through and through. Kier Starmer MP says, stop involving yourself in British politics. Nothing to do with you. I had to resign. I had no choice. I blocked you from entry, though. My number one achievement. Kier Starmer MP in the building, ladies and gentlemen.
Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision. I will ask the National Executive Committee of the Labour Party to set out a timetable with nominations opening on the 9th of July and completed by the summer recess. In the case of a contest, this will ensure a new leader is in place before Parliament returns in September. I will remain in post as Prime Minister until the contest is complete. And I will do everything I can to ensure an orderly handover of power. I will also give my successor my full and unequivocal support.
Yeah, Andy Burnham, okay? Israel kicked him out, too much writing. Israel was like, bro, enough. Chill out with the D writing, bro. You are not yet banned from Belgium. Please come to Belgium, march or protest with us, and come to the Manifiesta.
No,
I
they
might go to Belgium.
Britain that is far stronger and fairer than the one I inherited 2 years ago, better prepared for the challenges ahead, and better able to ensure the Labour Party secures a second term in office. I want to thank all of those friends and colleagues who have been at my side for these past 6 years or so, for their incredible commitment, service and support. I want to thank the brilliant Number 10 staff and our country's extraordinary civil service who dedicate their lives to public service. And when I leave the biggest job in the country, I shall spend more time on the most important job, being the best husband I can to my fantastic wife, Vic, who has been a rock by my side through good times and bad.
Oh my God, he's about to cry. God, he is fucking pathetic. I don't believe even for a moment that he is a human being, okay? I think he's a lizard person in a fucking human skin suit. So spare me the fucking tears, okay? Going back to my primary duty as a father and as a husband. Yeah, L husband, L father, just awful guy. Notorious cheater, by the way. Yeah, I know. That's how that when I first found out that Kier Starmer was potentially a notorious adulterer, like a serious adulterer, I could not believe it. Like, the dating pool in England is so busted that this guy fucks. Unbelievable. Probably the greatest L that the kingdom has seen thus far.
I'm being the best dad I can.
Yeah, who wants this dick, man?
My beautiful children, who are my pride and my joy. Thank you very much.
But then I'm reminded that Boris Johnson also fucks. And, you know, that's a somber reminder that it is... British politics and British culture is totally fucking busted. Anyway, let's see what Zach Polanski said. Our country needs a bold change of direction. Starmer lost confidence in the country because of his abject failure to challenge the power and wealth of an establishment which has taken for themselves while leaving the vast majority in a cost of living crisis. The vested interests that are holding this country back need to be confronted with wealth taxes on the super rich, utilities taken into public ownership, rent controls and affordable housing, and an end to support for Israel's genocide in Gaza. We are still waiting to see which version of Andy Burnham is going to show up in Downing Street. While he has talked about a change of course, the early indications are not encouraging and suggest more of the same with better communication skills. The time for half measures and sticking plasters is long gone. Burnham must be bold or he will be bust. It is going to be the Green Party in alliance with working class movements, environmental and social justice movements that can stand up to reform to prevent the disaster of Nigel Farage in Downing Street. Kier Starmer is objectively attractive and well-dressed for his age. Also, the Greens are charlatans who will split the vote and let reform win in first past the post. Fuck the Labour, right? They killed the UK. Wait, we do have Kier Starmer defenders in the chat. That's unbelievable. Kier Starmer defenders who correctly point to his destruction of Labour, that will still say that the Greens are spoilers. Buddy, you should be thanking whatever God you believe that the Greens exist, okay? This has to be actually Kier Starmer, right? I am good. I will permanently block you from the UK as my last act. No, fuck Kier, but he's objectively handsome and well-dressed now that he lost the weight. Oh my God. Oh my God, stop. Please stop. He's the most Rizless man. He's the most Rizless man of all time, please. At least Boris has some fucking swagger, bro. I hate to admit it, but he has some pizzazz. Kier has none of it. Boris looks awful, obviously, but so does Kier.
Victories like this one make a leader impregnable in office. But Kier Starmer started with low net favourability, from which his ratings fell further. There were brief upticks when he first met Donald Trump or later resisted joining Trump's Iran war. His ratings hovered around the lows of Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. His idea of change was calm after their storms.
You have given us a clear mandate, and we will use it to deliver change. to restore service and respect to politics, end the era of noisy performance, tread more lightly on your lives.
Kier Starmer's project was to make the Labour Party electable again and save it from the hard left. And in that, he was extraordinarily successful. The problem is that the project didn't really extend beyond polling day.
He'd arrived with a policy knapsack with little in it. The country had to wait 118 days until Rachel Reeves' first budget. In the meantime, the government announced one eye-catching policy that stuck in voters' minds: cutting winter fuel allowance.
Save the winter fuel! Save the winter fuel!
Having said they'd only raised tax by just over £8 billion, over two budgets the government raised taxes by £66 billion. And Kier Starmer's attempts to clarify what he was about were ever more forgettable word salads.
There are basics in government, and they're foundational. The missions then sit on top of that. They're the foundational stone of the plan. The missions are then the additional thing.
Dude, this is literally Kamala Harris. Like, this is what happens when you don't have a bold vision for change. And I swear to God, it's so much easier than this. Like, politics is as difficult as you want to personally make it. If your highest priority is defending the interests of capital, while you're simultaneously presenting yourself as like a left of center figure, it's going to be much more difficult for you to manage the decline of the Labor Party, right? This is literally the classic Democratic Party line where you say, well, we have concepts of a plan that we are choosing to implement in the near future that will, change our attitude towards a plan for progress. And it's like, dude, just fucking say you're gonna destroy 14 years of Tory austerity. That's what you were elected to do. That's it. Why is that so fucking tough? I guess it's tough when you are a servant to capital, though.
That we want the government to do, and the plan for change then takes them forward with measurable milestones.
He didn't have the thing of being a storyteller.
To those who knew Kier Starmer in his legal career, his limitations weren't surprising.
We, the senior lawyers in chambers, we used to fight over who would have him as our junior in our cases, because he was just so assiduous in his preparations of things. Judges liked him, great with legal argument. I wouldn't have said he was a jury lawyer, and so that may explain in some way.
I wouldn't say he's a jury lawyer. Okay, well, that's kind of really bad if you're going to be the front-facing leader of the fucking Labor Party. Oh my God, what a fucking humiliating thing to reveal. This is the most British way to cook. Your former colleague, by the way. She just straight up said he had no charm whatsoever.
Ways that he wasn't a storyteller. Stories are the stuff of life, and telling the stories of how, and telling the same old story about your father being a toolmaker isn't good enough.
Cook 'em. It's true. That's the classic Kier Starmer story. He's the son of a toolmaker. He comes from a working class background. He understands the plight of those who are laborers for that reason, except none of the fucking policies that he actually advanced aided the labor force in the UK. So what good does that make? It doesn't matter at all.
Many think Kier Starmer's position became irrecoverable when Number 10 tried to pursue £5 billion worth of savings in the welfare budget.
The welfare system, as it's set up, it can't be defended on economic terms or moral terms.
Labour unity snapped.
Dickensian cuts.
The dog's breakfast.
This is outrageous, man.
It is with a heavy, broken heart that I will be voting against this bill today.
Kier Starmer's authority over his party wasn't dented, it was destroyed.
What you saw there was the Parliamentary Labour Party rising up, shredding those plans, and with it, the Prime Minister's authority. And from the welfare rebellion on...
Keynesian cucks? No, Dickensian. Like Dickens.
basically the government seemed to fold on pretty much any issue that could pitch it against us.
Starmer reminds me of Mayor Lurie of San Francisco. Yeah, except he is the opposite of Mayor Daniel Lurie of San Francisco, because as much as I despise the mayor of San Francisco, he is beloved by his constituents, unlike Kier Starmer, who was beloved by no one, including his immediate family members. Okay? No one loves this man. Not his friends, not his family, virtually everyone that has spent any time with him will say the same thing, that he was risless. He was not exactly a joy to be around. Unbelievable charisma suck. Just terrible altogether.
Pitch it against the Parliamentary Labour Party.
Most people would sort of acknowledge that on some level. You didn't feel he did. It didn't go in.
He had remarkable levels of self-belief and resilience, and I think he was very stubborn.
Marking 1 year in office, Kier Starmer had said in an interview he felt his first big mistake was when he squeezed the hope out in one of his first big speeches.
Things are worse than we ever imagined.
He said another regret was adopting strident language on immigration, which echoed Enoch Powell.
We risk becoming an island.
Yeah, we risk becoming an island of strangers. Enoch Powell is an incredibly far-right thing that he said, except clearly he wasn't all that pissed off about it, because on his way out, as we found out earlier this morning, he literally said one of his accomplishments was the ending of the asylum hotels. So clearly you were on board with it, right? Clearly you were working to ensure that you didn't become an island of strangers. No more immigration.
Island of strangers.
Morgan McSweeney, who ran Kier Starmer's original leadership campaign and the general election campaign, was blamed for feeding him that line, operating Kier Starmer like a glove puppet, dragging him to the right. He was dispensed with when his favoured candidate for Washington ambassador, Peter Mandelson, was forced out over links to Jeffrey Epstein. The relentless fallout from the Mandelson appointment, especially tough for Kier Starmer to take.
I am angry. He lied, and he lied again. I'm angry. I'm absolutely furious.
I know that Kier Starmer had reservations and was listening to other pieces of information that he had, and his own sort of reading of newspapers about Peter, and had never sort of. He was not in the friendship circle of Kier, but Morgan McSweeney was one of Peter's boys.
I don't think that boy would recognise where I am now. We faced huge challenges as a family.
Relentless attempts to convey his humble origins didn't seem to get cut through.
Through that door, front door, there wouldn't be many people visiting our house because my dad didn't really want people coming in because he feared the conversation, what do you do for a living? And that made him retreat behind that front door.
Many voters found the son remote, unrelatable. He was asked how he coped with political attacks.
Firstly, I think I'd sort of go in on myself, almost a protective crouch. I'd absorb it into myself, and then begin the process of shutting out what I can shut out.
He's very emotionally detached. He's probably the most compartmentalised person that I've worked with closely in my career. And I think sometimes that remoteness came across as being slightly aloof.
In January, when cameras were invited into cabinet, the Prime Minister looked like he was struggling to stay in command.
Those were the cameras wanted to Okay, colleagues, let us make a start.
Command would soon slip altogether from his grasp.
Deliver for the whole country.
It's so funny that professional mainstream media outlets are just basically calling Kier Starmer a useless cunt in the most professional language they possibly can. Like, there is nothing redeemable about his tenure. It's so funny. They just straight up are like, yeah, he sucked. Everyone around him hated him. He had no allies whatsoever. And as a matter of fact, the allies that he did have were outed as like major pedophile affiliates, right? Which did not help. It's awesome. What a spectacular failure, but perhaps a perfect hatchet man to eviscerate the labor movement, right? Small L labor movement. I'm not talking about the Labor Party. Oh, what a fucking disaster.
High-speed loss of authority that has ended with his removal from office.
That was great. That was fantastic. Well done.
The right man to remove all trace of Jeremy Corbyn from Labour and to remove the Conservatives from office. For too many, not the right man.
Yeah, I'm telling you right now, that literally, like, everything that he did successfully was everything that the Democrats want to do to people like ourselves in the United States of America. Okay? Objectively, what the Labor Party, what Kier Starmer did to the Labor Party, the Democrats want to do to the DSA, to the left populist movement in this country right now, as is gaining ground in American politics. I really hope they fail. I really hope the Democrats fail, because if left to their own devices, they will unironically lead this country into ruin in the exact same way that the Labor Party, shepherded by Kier Starmer, galvanized the most reactionary force in the country. And that's why reform is such a strong force of politics in the UK now. And not only that, but it's not even enough. It's not even enough that reform is a growing force of politics, that we now have to sit around and deal with Restore Britain for those who haven't gotten the message that reform is fascist enough. What is this? Abdul might have the mandate of heaven. Oh yeah, I saw this. We have it in the docket, don't worry. But let us continue with now who gets to take over the throne. His name is Andy Burnham. He's confirmed Labour leadership bid after Starmer resignation. Andy Burnham is slightly to the left of Kier Starmer, which is, of course, not exactly a difficult feat to accomplish. Andy Burnham, on the other hand, is also a strong and proud advocate of the Labour Friends of Israel. So he will be the stooge to Israel all the same. Andy Burnham has already said that he will keep Shabana Mahmoud in power. A genocide denier all the same. Andy Burnham is not going to take the initiative and change the austerity that has plagued the United Kingdom for now almost 2 decades.
Third time's the charm. After trying and failing to become Labour leader in 2010 and again in 2015, Andy Burnham is now tipped to become the UK's next Prime Minister.
The fact that this individual could abscond...
He is a career politician, first elected in 2001, and has held a number of high-level ministerial posts before leaving Parliament to become Greater Manchester Mayor in 2017, where he overhauled public transport and the city saw a period of growth. In May 2020...
Burnham did apparently say Wes Streeting won't get a position in his cabinet, maybe because Wes Streeting came out and was like trying to position himself as anti-Israel now. Maybe that's why Andy Burnham was like, nope, you strayed away from the path.
He won a landslide re-election victory. Experienced in politics, both nationally and regionally, he promised as he became MP for Makerfield that he would replicate his Manchester track record.
We do need to bring down water bills, energy bills, rail fares, just as we've brought down bus fares in Greater Manchester to make life more affordable for people. We do need an end to trickle-down economics, which didn't trickle down very much at all.
All they are doing is slightly modifying the message, okay? Let's see if they follow through on this at all. I am not holding my breath.
Places like this. And we are going to lay out a new path for Britain.
There's one notable gap in Burnham's decades-long CV. On the global stage, he's a relative unknown with little foreign policy experience. In 2003, he voted in favour of the Iraq War. More recently, he called for the UK government to recognise Palestine as a state. But on the Makerfield...
That is by the way, so unbelievably marginal. I can't even begin to explain that to you before you think that implies that he has like, he will be in any way, shape, or form different. If you're part of Labor Friends of Israel, I have no confidence in you at all on this issue. I'm sorry. Yeah. Labor friend of pedophiles. Many prominent Labor Friends of Israel figures were outed as pedophiles, by the way. Not even making that up. Look it up on your own. Zara Sultana read Burnham to filth. Just another reminder that Andy Burnham voted for the Iraq War, an illegal war that cost over 1 million lives. He has refused to describe the systematic slaughter of Palestinians in Gaza as a genocide. So what will change? Nothing. Arms sales to apartheid Israel will continue. Palestine action will remain banned, and more pensioners will be locked up. Welfare will be cut to fund more weapons. Immigration detention will expand, and mass deportations will continue. Andy Burnham is not the second coming. He's the establishment's last roll of dice. We've already seen racist pogroms on our streets. The danger has not gone away. So we must organize, build solidarity, and create power from below. Fascism isn't at the door. It's already here. Only socialism can face down this barbarism. And Zara Sultana, your party MP for Coventry South. Why do you insist upon the accent? Because I'm having fun. Also, look at what they don't mention in criticizing Kier Starmer. BBC political reporters Becky Morton and Brian Wheeler managed to write 3,000 words on how Starmer failed to connect with the public without once mentioning the Gaza genocide. One of the many reasons this Starmer is deeply unpopular with the public is his complicity in Israel's massive crimes against humanity. The BBC reporters deem this not worth a mention, just tells us how divorced they are from reality. Client journalism and the Westminster bubble need to be rooted out. Can you do the accent more? It's very enraging. Good. Not saying your accents are bad, but working with an accent coach would be content. Bro, I have the stream on audio only. I thought the BBC video was still playing when you were reading that tweet, Lamau. Hell yeah. Posh reporter.
Field campaign trail would not say much more.
I've got to be honest, right now I've got to focus on the by-election. That is my focus, but I was one of those who called for a ceasefire. Shortly after the events of October the 7th, as horrific as they were. But
this is the only notch in his belt for legitimacy in this space, is that he was one of the early demanders of ceasefire. This is true. Fair is fair. No, it is. You gotta read it. You gotta grade these guys on a curb. Okay, that's just how it is. He was early in his demand for a ceasefire. Now you could say, oh well, he wasn't an MP, so it doesn't really matter. But I think it's still important to note. It's important to note. Asker, not a demander. Okay, I demanded one before him. I should run for prime minister. Yes.
That was the stance that I took. So I have spoken out.
251.
In 2015, when he was campaigning for leader, he said his first visit would be to Israel.
That's also true. That's right. He did say that. They asked him, he brought it up voluntarily. He said he would go to Tel Aviv as his first visit as the leader of the Labor Party. I mean, what do you say to that? What the fuck do you say to that? Why are you volunteering this information? Why is that even... Oh my God. What is he, running for the mayor of New York City? Yeah, no, he became the mayor of Manchester. And he stopped saying he'd go to Tel Aviv. As a matter of fact, Manchester has a high population of Muslim Brits. The next prime minister must lift the ban on Palestine action. I tried to ask Andy Burnham today if he would end the ban on Palestine action.
Will you end the ban on Palestine action, Andy? Will you end...
Yeah, he did not have an answer to that, it seems.
It's also not clear exactly where he falls on the political spectrum, having sidestepped Labour's past infighting.
The UK MOD have found Twitch. I'm being spammed with join the Royal Navy, join the Marines when I click around the side. XD. Yes, join the Royal Navy and you too can aid and abet in the war crimes of Israel. Please, join. You can wear short shorts as you go and wage wars in the desert, as your forefathers demanded. Lads, it's time to reinstate the draft. Keep calm and carry on. We must put our life on the line. for the beauty of the nation state of Israel. Her goals are our goals. We must put down our lives to ensure that Israel, the greater Israel project, is implemented. Very nice. Jason Hickel responds to Shabana Mahmood, my major op in the UK, Home Secretary, member of the Parliament for Birmingham Ladywood. Shabana Mahmood of the UK Labour Party, who banned me personally from entering the country, despite the fact that I am British, as you know, as you can tell from my accent. I am a British man after all. I've been lying to the Americans this entire time. Much like Steve Hilton, I have infiltrated the United States, trying to implement policies such as making the national cuisine jelly deal. Anyway, Shabana Mahmood says, Kier Starmer led our party from the brink back to power. He won a landslide victory, which few in our party's history have done before. An achievement that will never be forgotten. In office, he put us on the path to change we promised at the last election. A devoted and dedicated public servant. We owe him our deepest thanks. Jason Hickel says, pull yourself together. He won a landslide victory and then immediately betrayed his main promises, betrayed the working class, and then went on to participate in a genocide. He deserves contempt and punishment. Jason Hickel is my GOAT, visiting senior fellow at London School of Economics. Cut the shit, you're Chinese. I wish. Yeah, he only won because the Tories lost, and he learned 0 lessons from that defeat, and all he did was become the Tories. It's unbelievable. The biggest issue is he came out swinging, calling for the last 40 years of failure, pissing off Blair, and wanting to take public ownership of water, power, transport, etc., like he's done in Manchester with the buses. But then the bond markets went wild, and he ran away scared. He doesn't have the spine for it. We, in the international pro-workers movement, need real advocates, okay? People who have moral conviction, people who have moral courage, people who are true believers. Not people who will simply say the right things in order to gain favor with the working class, but people who will fight for those values, people who will champion these causes. The issue is, I do not trust that Andy Burnham will be that person. I think Andy Burnham is a politician, a career politician who's been in office in one way, shape, or form since 2001, someone who voted for the Iraq War, who at times has said the right things. And that's how I calculate his Palestine perspective, right? As the mayor of Manchester, of course, he has a lot more bandwidth to say the correct things about what Israel is doing, demanding that Israel cease its hostilities against the Palestinians, as he's overseeing a large constituency of Muslim voters. What he will do with real power, I don't think is going to be all that progressive. When he was going for real power within the labor movement, within the Labor Party, it's very clear that he was absolutely servile to the interests of Israel. He even went as far as to say that he would visit Tel Aviv as his first priority if elected into this leadership role. So Andy Burnham is exactly the worst kind of politician, one that tries to dance around these issues, one that does not have any real moral convictions, who will try to say the right thing. Kier Starmer was even worse than Andy because he would say the wrong things. At least Andy is, as a red Tory, as a right Labor member, is still capable of reading the room, but that's not going to change much.
He's thought as somewhat of a political enigma. Camille Nedelec, Al Jazeera.
What is this? Israel? Have you forgot the Armenian genocide or still be denial like all Turks? I don't deny the Armenian genocide, but Israel does. So I guess that's what you were trying to say here, right?
On May the 7th, in the Midlands.
Yes, and here is Nigel Farage, Reform UK leader. Nigel Farage demands general election after Prime Minister Kier Starmer resigns.
Yorkshire, all the north of England, Reform scored absolutely stunning victories in areas that Labour had dominated for the best part of 100 years. The sheer scale of our victory against Labour made it inevitable that this Prime Minister could not survive. And because of that, Burnham steps forward.
So was it Britain Yahoo? Oh my God. He is Britain Yahoo. That's true.
Wins quite convincingly the Makerfield by-election, ironically with the same message that we had in the local elections. Ours was vote reform, get Starmer out. His was vote Burnham, get Starmer out. Unbelievably, we're about to have our 6th Prime Minister in 7 years. I remember growing up thinking Italy was totally ungovernable as they went through a new Prime Minister every year, and yet that's where we are here. Why is it all happening, and why did we get that big number of votes in the north of England? Well, 10 years ago, on the 23rd of June, 2016, we voted Brexit. Much of our political establishment has never accepted the result. And even those that reluctantly did, namely the Conservative Party, refused to implement what voters demanded, namely lower levels of immigration and more freedom for our sole traders and small businesses. They were just 2 of the benefits we could have taken having got back self-governance. Under Starmer, the Labour Party has moved much closer back to the European Union, and if Mr Burnham wins, they'll go closer still, which means Labour voters and the Labour Party are completely divided on this issue. But the bigger point today is that of a mandate, is that of legitimacy. I've no idea whether there'll be...
I think one of the funniest outcomes of Brexit was literally the influx of migration that took place from even less white populations. But I obviously don't have an issue with that. It's just that these guys who championed Brexit ended up getting the worst of both worlds. Literally, if you look at the raw data, it's actually insane. These guys were like, oh, we don't want the Polish. Like, we don't want the Polish coming into the country. And then there was an influx of migration from, like, not the European continent. Now, that's not even an issue necessarily. It's just funny that it's an issue for them. That's what they care about. And it also obviously led to a litany of additional complications for the British economy. Biggest winner from Kier's resignation? Yes, I know. Lovely. He made the boss call. I cannot fathom how these guys, these fucking cockroaches on the far right, are capable of sequencing together some of the biggest L's, some of the worst punishments that the British people have experienced, and they just still survive in spite of their devastating failures, in spite of their success when it's a initiative that harms the working class. And the working class keeps looking at this and going, more, please. Yes, please, sir. Can I have some more? How is this possible? Yeah, here is the Financial Times data. The Brexit years in charts since the referendum, net migration to the UK from outside of the EU has risen, while net migration from the EU has moved in the opposite direction. Literally. These guys were so racist to the Polish migration coming from the European continent because they were like, we want domestic labor. We want the jobs. They're taking our fucking jobs, mate. They're Polish. They're taking our fucking jobs. And then, yeah, after the EU referendum, no more migration coming from, white, but less white European countries, and an increase in non-EU migration. The problem with the UK is we have an electorate that wants a Japanese approach to immigration, Nordic welfare, and an American tax system, and a political class that would rather pander to this delusion as opposed to leveling with public about the necessary trade-offs. This approach will continue to produce failed leaders until it fundamentally changes. I mean, he kind of cooked. This is like a real, I wouldn't say that like there is a robust demand for this. It's just that the public has only seen that as a viable political expression. The public thinks that that's what they need. It's not super far off, but only because there is a crisis in political vision in this fucking country. Okay? That crisis is born out of ineffective leadership because there is a media class that is the biggest attack dogs for capital, and the entire political class comes from the same fucking schools. They're all friends with the same exact people that are dominating the forces of capital in the country. So the entire leadership structure and the entire propaganda apparatus is slanted in one direction. And whenever someone comes out and says like, yeah, we should do something different, we should actually serve the working class in this country, they get destroyed. They get ritualistically humiliated. They get dominated. They get called a terrorist, an anti-Semite. We saw this with Jeremy Corbyn, who actually was very effective and unbelievably popular. And he got punished endlessly for that popularity. far more popular than Kier Starmer is, which is not really saying much. Kier Starmer is as popular as a rotting head of lettuce. But the same predicament now Zach Polanski has to withstand, right? Because in all of this crisis, in all this chaos, Zach Polanski was able to make something out of the Green Party. He was able to present the Green Party as a real alternative, an eco-socialist movement. Now, of course, the Green Party has a very decentralized structure, which I think is going to lead to a lot of problems down the line. I don't know how that will work, but I'm usually asking if you're coming over for the Durham Miners Gala. Yeah, well, I think you know the answer to that, don't you? There's also a Marxism conference that I was trying to attend that's coming up soon, and I won't be able to attend it in the UK. The problem with the UK government is that Margaret Thatcher is in power since 1979 until today. Yes, same problem that persists in America. Ronald Reagan has been in power, and Reaganomics has been in power since Reagan. Same predicament, same issue. We are not, I think you're allowed back now. You think Shabana Mahmood, the same Home Secretary, is going to allow me in now under the leadership of Burnham? I doubt it. I highly doubt it. It would give me a little bit of confidence that there is like some real changes taking place within the Labor Party if they actually stopped prosecuting Palestine Action as a prescribed terror organization. That would be great. But I don't think that's going to happen, especially considering she won't be Home Secretary when Burnham comes in. I doubt it. Yeah, my friend, Andy Burnham already confirmed that he would keep Shabana Mahmood. So no reason for doubt. He already confirmed.
A contest or a coronation. But what I do know is the British public.
Labor is cooked. They let the grooming gangs cook. Oh my God. Dude, here's why you are the biggest dumbass of all time. Okay? Virtually all of the actual incidents that took place with the grooming gangs took place under Tory leadership. You fucking baboon. You absolute moron. What the fuck do you mean labor is cooked because they let the grooming gangs cook? Every single actual incident, anytime there was any like Pakistani grooming gangs or whatever the fuck you think happened, it took place under Tory leadership. You're a fucking idiot. God damn. Why are people so stupid? Why are people so malleable? It blows my fucking mind. Learn to read. Educate yourself. You know when those grooming, doesn't matter where it started? What are you talking about? These are issues that were prosecuted literally when you started your fucking Twitch account. This is when it started. 14 years of Tory austerity, 14 years of Tory governance. They didn't fucking deal with any of this shit, and you think it's Kier Starmer's fault. And if you think that it's just a Muslim problem, you're a fucking moron anyway. This is an across-the-board issue with British policing. They are fucking awful at dealing with sex crimes, okay? They don't care about the facts, just the narrative. Yeah, notice how we shifted the goalposts and go, why did they not end it? How are they supposed to end something that literally happened and ended under Tory leadership 2 decades prior to their governance? You fucking dumbass. Also, this is still a problem, and it's not grooming gangs necessarily. It's not Muslim grooming gangs, okay? Sexual assault is a non-partisan issue in the UK. Only one party is trying to make it seem like it's just Muslims doing it, okay? Stop being a fucking idiot. If there's one person on this platform that is across the board anti-sex crimes, is me. I'm not the one who's fucking running cover for the Epstein class. I'm not the one who's actively trying to move the attention away from the sex crimes of Jeffrey Epstein affiliates. And I'm not the one who thinks that sex crimes are only being conducted by roving gangs of Muslims, okay? The guy who you are a fan of is doing that. I'm 35 and he looks older than my dad. For some reason, these R-words believe that Africa lived in peace and then the white nation attacked. All these countries were attacking all other, and Africa was just fucking behind. I can assure you, if Wakanda... Oh my God, this guy only lives in Marvel quotes too. Jesus Christ. You're 35 years old, man. You have no excuse to be this fucking... this dumb. Mr. Socialist, stop, dude. He's dead already. You're a fucking Disney adult. You're older than me. There's a... What makes these wankers better than BLM monkeys? Oh my God. Just fucking unvarnished hatred. Brother, I'm going to give you a warning right now. You are easily duped. They are manipulating you. Okay? The places that you look for this reinforcement of bigotry are very aware of how easily manipulated you are. Okay? You got to fucking snap out of it, dude. No, it doesn't matter who does it. It must be denounced. Be it Trump, the Pakistanis, whomever. Kind of feels like you're one directional, though. Look, racism is low IQ, okay? It's low IQ cope. The idea that there are inferior beings out there that are lesser than you, that society is hyper-focusing on. And that is a major weakness for the working class. You got to do away with that mentality. Because the reality is, they know, guys like Nigel Farage know how fucking easily manipulated you are. That's how they did Brexit. Is your life better? No. Now, I'm not a fan of the Labour Party either, but wake the fuck up. A lot of you guys love talking about how, oh, it's the British ruling class. I hate them. But you don't realize that you're being manipulated by that same exact British ruling class, you fucking idiot. They're tugging on your heartstrings. They're making you think that it's actually, brown and black migrants that are responsible for all the crime in the country. That crime is not born out of people's socioeconomic conditions. That there's no solution. That the solution actually comes from purging the fucking boundaries on ethnic confines. As long as all the black and brown people are purged from the boundaries of the UK, then the UK will be a more prosperous nation. You're a fucking idiot. That's not how this works at all. That's not going to solve anything. It's going to make things worse, ironically enough, because now you have no one working at the NHS, for example. Your ass is not going to go become a nurse. You don't have the technical skills. It's a delusional way to abdicate responsibility away from the hands of the ruling class. The ruling class knows how easily manipulated you are. They just dangle this shit in front of your eyes, and you fall for it every time. You're like, yes, I'm going to vote for the most right-wing party. Well, it's those right-wing forces that have defended the ruling class, and they've actually manipulated you into thinking that they have your best interest in mind. They've moved your attention away to tribalism. They've moved your attention away to the crimes only being done by the Muslims. It's just the Muslims doing the crimes, right? As long as we get rid of the Muslims, the UK will be a better place overall. That's fucking stupid. That's not true.
Have simply had enough of political parties chopping and changing their leaders at will. We vote for somebody in a general election to be our prime minister. We expect them to serve their term. And barring ill health or exceptional circumstances, what is going on here, frankly, is reminiscent of a banana republic that has totally devalued the very process of general elections and democracy. I demand, we at Reform demand, a general election. After all, when the Conservatives were chopping and changing prime ministers, Labour kept saying there should be a general election. On that point, the Conservative Party...
Simply put, I don't know how you have unlimited appetite to fall for this every time, okay? It's literally this. And it's ironic because it is Rupert Murdoch that's like mass producing this propaganda. It's literally this always. And the only thing that has changed, over the years is the number of cookies that he has and the number of cookies that this guy has. This guy has even less cookies now. But the strategy doesn't change. And people are so easily manipulated. They go, yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. These fucking foreigners are taking my cookie. Cookies down to the fucking crumbs, and you still think it's the black and brown working class that's actually stealing it.
There's no need for a general election because they're part, frankly, of the Uniparty. It's as if the whole thing is a game. Labour did not actually carry out their mandate of 24, did a whole number of things, whether it was the tax on family farms, the giving away of the Chagos Islands and much else that wasn't in the manifesto. If it is Mr. Burnham, he didn't even stand at the last general election. Britain is broken. 6 prime ministers in 7 years should convince you of that fact. We are ready for a general election, and I suspect many of you too are ready for a general election. The thought we're going to go through.
Your take on grooming gangs is so wrong. It's laughable. Wait, what? There's no way I have a 31-month subscriber who literally fucking is unironically a firm and committed believer that it's like there are that this is not an issue born out of the British police's like lack of interest. Sarnix is a troll. Psych, did you actually think that I, as a 31-month subscriber, Andy, would buy into a talking point that the Roach community salivates over? Come on, Unk. Anyways, now to more important things. Do the stripes on your suit line up with the pockets? I'm trying to submit that fit in for review of dye workwear. P.S. Give me a good shake. I'm gonna fucking ban you.
Weeks, maybe months of paralysis in a country whose debt is rising faster than any country in the world, apart from Botswana, where the boats continue to come across the English Channel every day. The whole thing is not acceptable. Let's have a general election. Let's get a government with a clear democratic mandate.